often these sort of key performance indicators are good to be able to set targets and that within your own company or within your own divisions within your company, or maybe to meet certain best international practice standards. These are other benefits to why you as a company may want to embark on a water management strategy. So let's have a look at what the actual water management strategy overview process is. So initially, you would like to identify what your core aims are. You need to assess the needs of what you as a business would like to achieve. Once you've identified those core aims, you can then look about going through sort of certain reduction strategies based on things such as whether assessing zero discharge or assessing cleaner production. These are two concepts which will help you go about achieving a water management strategy or water management opportunities. And we're going to talk a little bit about those in a few slides' time. From there, hopefully that you would have measured your water quality and you have created a water hierarchy of certain available water sources around your facility. Then as a group, whether it's a single person who's been chosen to lead the water management on a facility, or whether it's a team of people, ideally that you want to sit down and brainstorm the best possible opportunities that will exist at your specific facility. That brainstorming may not only necessarily be between the team within your facility. You may want to bring in experts in certain areas which will help add to the actual value of the water management strategy that you are actually looking to apply. Then from there, then you will apply your certain concepts, and then ideally you will like to evaluate all of the water management opportunities that you have identified through your brainstorming sessions. How are you going to evaluate that? You may be the environmental effects. It may also be the business case, whether each option you've identified a strong business case related to it, whether it's a financial savings or return on investment or payback. These are the type of things that a water management strategy looks at, and the process that you go about to actually get to the end goal, which is achieving on water efficiency and water conservation. Why we've represented it in a continual circle is if after the fact that you've gone about it and you brainstorm certain options, if none of those options are looking potentially viable, you may want to start the process again. That's why it's a continual sort of process. Right. So what are the core aims that you actually do want to achieve? Some of them may be you may want to source new water sources. I gave the example of possibly rainwater capture for your facility. That will be a new water source to your facility, which you may then want to use again on irrigating your garden. Then on reducing water use, that's on the conservation side. You may also want to identify water recycling opportunities and options. Whether you are a car wash who's washing cars and all your water is going back through the drain, through a grease trap and then back to the sewers, you may want to take that water after the grease trap and recycle it and bring it back into the process such that you reduce your dependency on the municipality supply and you actually conserve on water as a whole. Then, to achieve reduction in wastewater, often this can be simpler than it may seem. Often a large body of water that is deemed to be wastewater is contaminated by a single small source of water, which will then contaminate the whole body of water. So looking at wastewater separation or waste stream water separation, you can often achieve a great saving in water because you've now separated a small wastewater stream from a large body of water, and that large body of water can now be reused within your facility as it is now not deemed to be wastewater. It's still of a high enough quality to be reused around your facility. Now, having a look at the initial concept that I mentioned in the water management overview, it's a concept such as zero discharge. Now, zero discharge does not mean that no water leaves the site. Cleaner water can leave the site. However, the best interpretation means no discharge at all during dry weather until after a storm of prescribed intensity and duration. Now, let me just clarify this a bit. Zero discharge does not necessarily apply for all facilities. A lot of the time, legislation will put zero discharge onto certain facilities such as mines or oil and chemical storage facilities, where if any runoff water from those processes had to go into the environment around it, it may have a detrimental effect to the surrounding water tables, things like that. In this picture you can see this specific site is leaking polluted water into a major body of water right by the sea. So hence, zero discharge, the concept of is not always applicable to all facilities, but you can sometimes use it, for example, in a place like a car wash. If it's an open sort of car wash on a tarmac, when you wash your cars, all the oil and grease coming off of the cars will eventually, could sometimes dry up and end up on the tarmac itself. When a rainstorm comes, that grease will then be washed into the surroundings, either into the stormwater drains, which then goes back into our major waterworks, or it can go onto the garden area, which then eventually finds its way back into the water table. So ideally, zero discharge should be chosen in specific instances. It is just a grounding as to where you can possibly start having a look and how you can have, as a company, a less impact on the surrounding environment. Then having a look at cleaner production. Cleaner production is based around 8 sort of pillars. Those 8 pillars are good housekeeping, input material change, better process control, equipment modification, technology, on-site recovery and reuse, production of a useful byproduct, or product modification. So on your specific site, you can use this table to go around and see how you can apply one of these cleaner production methods to various operations around your facility. On the residential side, maybe if just having a look at a technology change, maybe changing your shower head from a regular shower head to a low-flow shower head. That is changing the technology to reduce on the water consumption, but not only on the water consumption, because it is using hot water in the showers, you're also indirectly affecting the energy consumption of that facility. By using less water, you therefore use less hot water, so therefore you require less energy to heat the water around your facility. So these 8 things are optional as a water auditor or a company to go about when looking at how they can look at implementing a water management strategy, and look at each individual operation and see how they can apply one of these concepts to reduce and conserve water, and at the end of the day also be more efficient. But water management doesn't always need to be a technology retrofit. It could also start with certain behavioral changes. These behavioral changes may start with educating staff about water and what a precious resource water actually is. By educating staff to know how dependent the human race is on water, they will then start to take this knowledge and then hopefully apply it around the workplace, and not only around the workplace, but then around their daily lives at home. You can achieve this through certain workshops, by educating them through the workshops or seminars, or you could even go about it by placing signage around the workplace. The signage could be reduce water or save on water. Placing these type of signages above the certain water usage points is just a constant reminder to employees that water is a scarce resource and that they should keep water conservation in mind at all times, and that when they are using that specific water resource, they have sitting in the back of their mind that they should actually be looking after the amount of water that they are using. Another potential option to start your water management strategy is to set goals within your organization to conserve on water. But by setting goals, that needs to start off at a high-level management area and then filter down to the rest of the organization, to all the way right down to the bottom guys of the workforce. By setting goals, you can also include incentives to the different divisions, to who can conserve the most amount of water on site. These incentives will then obviously incentivize your workforce to work as a whole unit and as one to conserve on water. So not only is it through education, but also changing certain practices can lead to a saving in water. These practices could be, for example, when cleaning the floors with a hose. Often we've walked onto a facility and seen them cleaning their floors for 15-20 minutes with the hose running, whereas all it needed was maybe an initial spray down, and then for them to walk in with a broom, give it a quick sweep, maybe one last spray down at the end, and they would have saved on 10 minutes worth of watering that floor. So they would, just by changing the practice, they would have made a major water saving initiative. Also, a common one, watering lawns during the morning or evening periods rather than during the midday, where a lot of the water will be lost to one of the outputs which we mentioned earlier, being evaporation. So just through changing certain practices and changing certain mindsets, a company or organization can do a lot without actually implementing many expensive or capex expensive retrofits or technology changes. So looking at just the residential or commercial applications, I've put together a list of certain interventions that you yourself around the home or around your commercial space can start to implement certain interventions which you would have come across through a water management strategy. But these are just a couple tips that you can maybe use around the facility. Starting off with on the toilet side, you can look at possibly installing a multi-flush system which only flushes the toilet for as long as the user holds the toilet handle down for, thereby not always flushing the full system's worth of toilet when it is not needed. You can also look at possibly installing a smaller system. A lot of older facilities did have larger systems whereby there is more water flushed down the toilet than is what is actually needed to get rid of the waste. Other than that, you could possibly look at using a dual flush system. Now, a dual flush system has two options as to how much water you actually want to flush down the toilet, depending on the type of waste you need to get rid of. Then looking on the urinal side, you could look at it possibly installing urinal sensors, which only flushes the toilet when someone's actually used it. Often we've come across cities where the urinals is based on a timer, where every half an hour or hour the urinals will automatically flush, regardless of whether anyone's actually used the urinal. So that will be quite a valuable initiative to install urinal sensors. Otherwise, for those that don't want to install the sensors and still have the automatic system, you can maybe look at it once again, installing a smaller system to reduce on the amount of water which is flushed through the urinal system. Other than that, ideally, there are waterless urinals which don't use any water at all. Waterless urinals often will also give you a very good return on investment due to the fact that it doesn't use any water and uses other methods to get rid of any urine that enters the system. Looking at the basins, you can look at possibly, or the taps, look at installing tap aerators. Aerators reduce the flow rate of the water coming out of the faucet and therefore reduce on the amount of water actually used. It does this by introducing an airstream to the water, so it still feels like you still have the same flow rate. However, it is reduced on a normal faucet from 15 liters per minute to often 6 liters per minute. So that's a major saving. Then again, on the automation side, you could look at installing sensors. A lot of bathrooms nowadays often have sensors as to when a person puts their hand in the basin to wash it off, so the water will only run when there is a need. So that is often key, to make sure that water is available only when needed and is listed. I've mentioned a few times throughout the webinar about grey water collection. You could possibly look at collecting your grey water from your basins, also possibly your showers, putting it through some grey water system which may include some sedimentation tanks, maybe a couple full, and you can then look at reusing it either at cleaning off your carports, or as mentioned previously, you can